Up and at 'em, everybody, and thank you for joining us right here on Wake Up Worcester on Charter TV 3. Well, with Guy Glotus deciding that he is going to seek state office and run for state auditor, that means that we are going to have a new High Sheriff of Worcester County. 4 names so far in the race. There is going to be a Democratic primary as well, and one of those contestants in the Democratic primary, Scott Bove, with us here this morning. Thank you so much, Scott, for stopping by.
Good morning. An early start today.
It is indeed, but we are glad that you are here with us. Boy, I guess you got to get used to that, huh? A lot of late nights and a lot of early mornings to get the word out.
Well, it makes you wonder and realize how big Worcester County really is. There was one morning last week I was up in Hubbardston at 9 o'clock in the morning, and all of a sudden I had to go down to Millville for quarter of 11. So you can't get there easy.
Right.
So
it is a large area. Tell us a little bit about that. What are the geographic boundaries for the Sheriff of Worcester County?
Well, there's 60 cities and towns within Worcester County. It goes from the New Hampshire border down to the Connecticut-Rhode Island border. So you can be literally touching 3 different states at the same in the same day in some instances.
Wow. Wow. Now, you're running as a Democrat for sheriff. You do have a primary challenger. Tell us a little bit about your background and your credentials to be the next sheriff.
I've been there for 27 years. I started in 1984. Sheriff Herman, at the time, hired me right out of high school. So I've been there since 1984. So I've got 27 years experience.
And your first job right out of high school would have been as a guard?
Yeah, I started as a correctional officer at 18 years old.
What is that like?
Well, things have really come a long way. When I filled the application out and they said report to work on Saturday. So I figured I would be getting some training and some education, and they said, no, go down and take a left. Well, my second on the job, I was working maximum security.
No kidding. I can't even imagine that at 18 years old.
Yeah. It was quite an eye-opening experience.
I bet you learn a lot about human nature having that. Now, how long were you a correctional officer?
Well, I currently hold the position of Assistant Deputy Superintendent,
right,
which is also a correctional officer.
So really, I mean, really moving your way up through the ranks for over these 27 years, have you really had a chance then to see just about everything that goes on behind the scenes?
Yeah, through the years, I've overseen almost every department within the place at a variety of different levels. Currently, I'm in an administrative position at the Sheriff's Office. But I've been involved in the union for about half my career now as an administrator on the last 15 years of my career. So it's an eye-opening experience. You see both ends of it from the union standpoint and the administrative standpoint. And I think that uniquely qualifies me to base my decisions on knowing what the union wants and some things that they look at. And I've also been from the administrative thing. When you're looking at it from a budgetary standpoint, sometimes things are a little bit different, especially in these tough economic times.
Sure. How has it changed over the 27 years? I mean, has that always been a constant, no matter who the sheriff has been, these tough budget times?
Well, there was some time, in the mid-'80s where everything was going real well. I think at the time, the budget when I started in '84 was probably about $7 or $8 million, and it's been as high as almost $46 million currently.
Wow.
So when I started, I think we had about 350 inmates and a staff of maybe about 80. Now today we've got 1,200 plus inmates and a staff of over 650, so it's really grown through the years.
How many inmates should be at the prison?
Our official count should be 888.
Wow, I mean, so over almost about 400 more.
Yeah, as of this morning we had 1,213, I believe, this morning.
Yeah, really, so it really is just about exactly 400 more. I mean, that can't be, that has to be dangerous for the officers.
Well, what happens is you've got double bunking in almost half of the facility, which from the correctional officer standpoint, it's dangerous, especially when we're looking at cutting staff and numbers and everything. You've got a housing unit with 119 inmates, and sometimes you only have 3 correctional officers watching them. So things get tough and they get hairy because it's serious business.
Right. Well, as you said, you were 18 years old and you were down in maximum security. So so there's some real hard cases who are in there in the prison. Is there something that the sheriff can do? What could you do to maybe alleviate some of that overcrowding? Well,
one of my top priorities is to actually do that because currently it costs us $35,000 to house one inmate for 1 year. So, do the math times 1,200, the cost is staggering to run these correctional facilities. And one of my top priorities is going to be to cut recidivism, because if we're lucky enough to get 100 people out of jail, every 100 people that we keep out of jail, it's going to save the taxpayers of Worcester County $3.5 million.
Right now, how many go back in, Scott?
Well, the recidivism currently, it's depending on whose numbers you look at, it's over 50%.
Isn't that something?
Which is high.
And it's a real drain on the communities, too. I mean, I was talking to some people, you know, when they're always talking, of course, about Worcester and about revitalizing the downtown. And part of that is that people are a little bit nervous about going into downtown. But some of that really is something that you as sheriff, working, I would think, with some others, would have an impact on, about how you can, you know, keep some of our downtowns safer or the area safer. Because obviously we'd like people to be rehabilitated. We'd also like those who need to be locked up to stay locked up.
Yep. Well, exactly. I had my announcement going back probably a month ago, and I did it on the town steps of Holden where I live. And one of the reasons I did it, I moved to Holden because it was safe. It was a nice place to raise your family and your friends. So I decided to move there. I think everyone within Worcester County, and beyond for that matter, needs and deserves to have a safe community to live and to raise their children.
Scott, straight ahead, I mean, I want to get into some of the specific things that you will do at the prison. And main job of the sheriff, I don't want to harp on the prison if there's more to it, but why don't you tell me a little bit about that? You just said, I mean, for instance, that you would be working with the cities and towns. That might be a part of the sheriff's job that we don't really recognize as much.
Well, I think, you know, one of the largest things that we currently do is the community service piece. And going back to the 1987, I worked with Sheriff Flynn in implementing the first community service program Worcester County has ever seen. And it's really, really grown through the years. I think originally we had one guy with 10 inmates out painting schools and whatnot. I think currently under Sheriff Glotus has really expanded and has done a nice job. We've got almost 10 offices where we've got 50, 60 inmates out every day doing something in the community, whether it's picking up highways or painting schools or cleaning up cemeteries and a variety of other things that really, really is important and saves the taxpayers of Worcester County a tremendous amount of money. Literally, it's millions on top of millions of dollars that program has saved. I was thrilled to be part of it at the onset.
Now, I know that that you obviously have a tremendous background in law enforcement. Tom Foley, who's going to be your Democratic opponent, he does as well. Keith Nicholas, my understanding, he's a police officer.
Correct.
He's been here with us on Wake Up Worcester. Republican Lou Evangelitis. Now, he is a former prosecutor, but he spent the last 10 years in the state legislature. And I've heard a lot of people, just as I've talked to people about the different races, that there seems to really, for this particular race in particular, seems to be those who feel that, oh, you know, a politician maybe shouldn't be running for the sheriff's position. However, Guy Glotus certainly, you know, did so successfully.
Sheriff Glotus had worked there for 3 years, so Sheriff Glotus had some business with the sheriff's office, so he knew and was very well aware of how the place ran. So I think he had just over 3 years there. It's a dangerous place, and the lives and safety of the 650 staff and the 1,200 inmates, their lives and their safety literally depends on who runs that place. Mm-hmm. It's really not a place for on-the-job training, and anyone could come in and be sheriff. But what happens is, on day one, I can hit the ground running. I know the players, I know the inmates, I know the staff, I know the facility. You know, it's an old facility that was built in 1973. You know, it's not in good shape. So I could go in and I could effectively, day one, start moving things around. Anyone that would come in there would take them 2 to 3 years to realize.
How long, really?
Realize the players, the place, the inmates, and everything else that goes on. And you, as I'm sure anyone would, you surround yourself with good people that can help you make those decisions if you don't know it. I obviously would surround myself with knowledgeable people, but I know it myself. I could, you know, rely on everyone around me, but myself included, not other people.
Very interesting. Straight ahead, much more. We'll talk with you. Really kind of drill down into some of the things that you would specifically do on day one.
Yep.
That would make you the best candidate to be sheriff of Worcester County, and that's coming up on Wake Up Worcester on Charter TV 3.